31st March 1889. Gustave Eiffel climbs Wazat 110 steps to unfurl the French flag atop a structure Paris called a metal monster. 300 meters of iron that critics demanded be torn down before completion. Artists, intellectuals, Guy de Maupassant himself, all proclaimed it would dishonor the city forever. You're standing at Champ de Mars as 30,000 pairs of eyes witness the impossible. No lifts operational. 18,038 iron pieces bolted with 2.5 million rivets by 100 workmen who defied death. Every climb, 1,710 steps, the air thick with doubt. Protests had raged since February 1887. The question wasn't if people would come, it was whether they'd return. In 173 days, 1,853 and 22 visitors flooded through. 12,000 daily. What transformed a monstrosity into a monument, nations envied? 3 buried truths about the 24 hours that silenced Paris's harshest voices. Witness the moment doubt shattered, and engineering ambition rewrote what humanity dared to build. Through AI reconstruction, we can now stand exactly where they stood, witness exactly what they witnessed. The 24 hours that changed civilization, rebuilt second by second. The year is 1887. You're standing in central Paris, reading Le Temps newspaper on a February morning. Valentine's Day. The headline stops you cold. Artists against the Eiffel Tower. Not just any artists. 47 of France's most celebrated minds. Émile Zola, Alexandre Dumas fils, Charles Gounod, Guy de Maupassant. Their words burn across the page. We protest with all our strength, all our indignation against the erection of this useless and monstrous Eiffel Tower. This wasn't polite disagreement. It was cultural war. You'd hear the rage in cafes, in salons, in parliament chambers. The Tower of Babel, they called it, an insult to French taste, a betrayal of beauty. The letter to Charles Alphand, Minister of Works, didn't mince words. For 20 years we will see stretched out like a black ink blot, the odious shadow of the odious column built of riveted metal. Gustave Eiffel read every word. 54 years old, engineer, not artist. Builder of bridges, not monuments to aesthetic philosophy. He'd won the competition for the 1889 Exposition Universelle centerpiece through numbers, not poetry. His proposal, a 300-meter iron tower, tallest structure on Earth, mathematically perfect, structurally revolutionary. The artists saw desecration. Eiffel saw possibility. Construction began. 28th of January, 1887. Foundations first. 4 massive concrete supports sunk 15 meters below Champ de Mars. You'd watch, month after month, as iron pieces arrived by horse-drawn wagon. Each numbered, each calculated, each fitting into Eiffel's master blueprint with millimeter precision. The workers were something else entirely, not the 300 laborers you'd expect for a project this vast. Exactly 132 workmen on site at peak. Rigorous safety protocols, guardrails installed as construction progressed, wooden scaffolding beneath every platform, screened enclosures around work areas. Eiffel wasn't just building a tower. He was proving that engineering could conquer height without sacrificing human life. Only 1 worker died during 26 months of construction. 1. In an era when dozens died building cathedrals, hundreds perished on railway lines. Eiffel's obsession with safety was as revolutionary as his design. You'd see the tower rise 60 centimeters daily. 4 iron pillars, curved inward, ascending toward an impossible meeting point 57 meters above ground. The first platform, then higher. The second platform at 115 meters, then higher still. Into air no structure had ever reached. By March 1889, the tower stood complete, 7,300 tons of wrought iron, 18,038 individual pieces, 2.5 million rivets assembled by teams of 4, 1 heating the rivet to white hot, 1 holding it in place, 1 shaping the head, 1 hammering it home. 4 men, perfect synchronization, 12 rivets per hour. If one team faltered, the entire sequence collapsed. The tower didn't just stand. It dominated the Paris skyline like nothing before it, but the artist's fury hadn't diminished. If anything, completion intensified their disgust. Guy de Maupassant reportedly ate lunch in the tower's restaurant daily because it was the one place in Paris where he couldn't see the tower. 31st March 1889, Inauguration Day, not public opening. That would wait. Today, Gustave Eiffel, dignitaries and the press would climb to prove the tower safe. You're watching from Champ de Mars as Eiffel begins his ascent. No functioning lifts. The hydraulic lift system wouldn't be operational until May. Only the stairs, all 1,710 of them. Eiffel climbs steadily, 54 years old, ascending into history. The air grows thinner, the wind stronger. Paris spreads below like a map. At the summit, he unfurls the tricolor flag. Cannons boom across the city. The Eiffel Tower is open, but public doubt remained surgical and deep. Would Parisians actually climb this metal monster? 6 days later, 6th of May, 1889, the Exposition Universelle opened its gates. The Eiffel Tower opened to the paying public simultaneously. Ticket prices: 2 francs for the first level, 3 for the second, 5 for the top. Half price on Sundays. You're standing at the entrance as dawn breaks. The queue already stretches across Champ de Mars. Hundreds, then thousands. By midday, the crowd is 30,000 strong. The lifts still aren't working. Won't be operational for another 20 days. Every visitor must climb 1,710 steps to reach the summit. No exceptions, no shortcuts, pure physical endurance, and they climb anyway. You'd hear the gasps, the exhaustion, families pausing every 50 steps to catch breath, elderly couples clinging to railings, children racing ahead then collapsing on platforms. The climb takes 40 minutes on average. Some take an hour. Some give up at the first platform, 57 meters up, and descend defeated. But 18,000 reach the top that first day. 18,000 people willingly torture themselves up 1,710 steps to stand where no Parisian has ever stood before. Why? That's the question Eiffel himself couldn't answer. The tower was open. The stairs were brutal. The critics were still proclaiming disaster. Yet the crowds kept coming. By the end of that first week, 30,000 had made the climb. Not just Parisians, visitors from across France, from across Europe, from across the Atlantic. They'd read about the tower, the controversy, the protests, the architectural horror that insulted French taste, and they had to see it for themselves. But Eiffel didn't know something crucial. The very critics who signed the petition, who proclaimed the tower an abomination, were quietly visiting. At night, when crowds thinned, climbing those same 1,710 steps they'd sworn represented civilization's decline. Guy de Maupassant was photographed at the tower's restaurant. Charles Gounod was spotted on the second platform. Even Émile Zola, who'd called it a metallic nightmare, was seen ascending the stairs in June 1889. They came in secret, they climbed in shame, and they witnessed what they'd refused to imagine: Paris transformed by iron and ambition into something unprecedented. The tower wasn't just tall, it was a portal, a physical manifestation of what 19th century humanity could achieve when mathematics conquered fear. Every rivet was a declaration, every iron beam a defiance of gravity and tradition. You'd stand at the base, looking up, and feel your perspective warp. The tower wasn't a building. It wasn't architecture in any classical sense. It was pure structural honesty. No facades, no decoration, just iron, calculation, and the courage to say, "We can do this." Hour by hour you watch the transformation. Not of the tower, it stands unchanging, permanent. The transformation is Paris itself. The city that fought the tower, protested the tower, declared the tower an insult to civilization, is now queuing for hours to climb it. The newspapers that published the artist's petition now publish visitor statistics, daily totals, weekly records. The tower dominates the front page, not with outrage, but with pride. 30,000 climb Eiffel's marvel, reads Le Figaro. Engineering triumph draws Europe to Paris, proclaims Le Matin. The shift happened in days, not months, not years. Days. But the tower's trials weren't over. By week 2, problems emerged. The iron expanded in summer heat, shifting platforms by centimeters. Visitors reported feeling the tower sway in strong wind. Not dangerous, but terrifying to those 300 meters above ground. Rumors spread that the tower would collapse, that Eiffel had miscalculated, that the artists were right after all. Attendance dropped, from 12,000 daily to 8,000, then 6,000. The queues shortened. The doubt returned. Eiffel responded with numbers. He published calculations proving the tower's wind resistance, demonstrated the iron's expansion coefficients, invited engineers from across Europe to inspect every joint, every rivet, every platform. He opened the tower's mathematics to public scrutiny. It worked. By week 3, attendance surged again, not because Paris trusted Eiffel's personality, because they trusted his calculations. In an age of ornamental architecture and decorative excess, the Eiffel Tower spoke a new language, pure engineering truth. 26th May, 1889. The lifts became operational. Otis hydraulic elevators, capable of carrying 50 passengers at a time to the second platform. The climb that took 40 minutes now took 7. You'd think attendance would plateau, that the challenge of the stairs was part of the appeal. But the opposite happened. With lifts operational, attendance exploded. 15,000 daily, then 18,000, then 22,000 on peak weekends. The tower wasn't a test of endurance anymore. It was accessible, democratic. Any Parisian with 5 francs could stand at the summit and see their city transformed into a toy model below, and they came in waves. By August 1889, over 1 million people had visited the Eiffel Tower. 1 million in 90 days. The structure critics called useless had become the exposition's defining symbol. Foreign dignitaries demanded tours. The Prince of Wales climbed to the top. Thomas Edison visited, leaving his signature in the guest book with the inscription, "To Monsieur Eiffel, the brave builder of so gigantic and original a specimen of modern engineering." But you're witnessing something deeper than tourism statistics. You're watching a society's belief system shift in real time. The tower didn't change, Paris changed. The same iron, the same rivets, the same 300 meters, but the meaning transformed entirely. What was monstrous in February 1887 became magnificent by July 1889. Hour 12 of the exposition. You're standing on the tower's second platform, 115 meters above Champ de Mars. Below, the exposition grounds spread like a living map. The Gallery of Machines, the Palace of Fine Arts, pavilions from 35 nations, 2 million square meters of exhibition space, and every visitor passes beneath the tower's shadow. Every photograph of the exposition includes the tower's silhouette. Every newspaper illustration frames the event with Eiffel's iron lattice. The tower had won. Not through beauty, not through decoration, through sheer, undeniable presence. But Eiffel wasn't celebrating. You'd see him daily walking the tower's platforms, checking rivets, measuring expansion, calculating stress loads. The tower was open, but his work wasn't finished. He knew something Paris didn't yet understand. The tower's survival wasn't guaranteed. The Exposition Universelle would close in November 1889. The tower's permit was for 20 years, 1889 to 1909. After that, the city could demand demolition, and many still wanted exactly that. The artist's petition hadn't been forgotten. It had been temporarily silenced by popular enthusiasm. What if that enthusiasm faded? Eiffel began searching for the tower's purpose beyond tourism. He installed a meteorological laboratory at the summit, conducted atmospheric pressure experiments, offered the tower to the French military for radio transmission tests. He was building the tower's case for permanent survival, one scientific experiment at a time. By September 1889, the tower had hosted 1.5 million visitors. By October, 1.8 million. When the exposition closed 6th of November, the final count stood at 1,168,287 visitors in 173 days. Nearly 2 million people had climbed or lifted to the summit. 2 million witnesses to the moment engineering ambition rewrote what humanity dared to build. But the story that matters isn't the attendance. It's the transformation. The artist who protested in February climbed in June. The newspapers that published outrage in 1887 published admiration in 1889. The city that called the tower a metal monster now called it our tower. Possession, pride, identity. The Eiffel Tower hadn't changed Paris's skyline. It had changed Paris's understanding of what beauty could mean. That's the revolution. Not iron, not height, not engineering prowess. The revolution was perceptual. Beauty wasn't just symmetry and decoration anymore. Beauty could be structural honesty, mathematical precision, the courage to build something unprecedented and watch a society's aesthetic philosophy bend around it. You're witnessing the 24 hours that didn't just open a tower, the 24 hours that opened a century. The 20th century would be defined by structures like this: skyscrapers, suspension bridges, radio towers, space frames. Everyone descended from Eiffel's radical declaration, "We can build this, and it will be beautiful because it's true." The artists saw dishonor. History saw prophecy. By 1900, the Eiffel Tower was Paris's defining landmark. By 1910, when the 20-year permit expired, dismantling it was unthinkable. The radio antenna installed at the summit had become militarily crucial. The tower's survival was secured not by aesthetics, but by utility. By 1920, the tower was already being called iconic. By 1930, it appeared on postcards, paintings, poetry. By 1950, it was synonymous with France itself. Today, 7 million people visit annually, 7 million witnesses to what Gustave Eiffel proved possible in 1889. But all of that, the icon, the symbol, the romance, began with one day, 6th May, 1889. The day 18,000 people chose to climb 1,610 steps to witness something their culture told them was worthless. They climbed anyway. They witnessed anyway. And in witnessing, they transformed doubt into belief. That's the lesson buried in those 24 hours. Transformative moments don't wait for consensus. They don't wait for society's permission. They happen when one person, Gustave Eiffel, calculates the impossible, builds the impossible, and opens the gates. What happens next isn't predetermined. The artists could have been right. Paris could have rejected the tower. Attendance could have collapsed after opening week. The 20-year permit could have ended in demolition. None of that was guaranteed. What was guaranteed was this: Eiffel built it. He opened it, and he let Paris decide. The 24 hours of opening day weren't just about a tower. They were about a choice. Every visitor who climbed those 1,610 steps was choosing to believe before proof existed, choosing to witness before history validated the choice. That's how civilizations transform, not through consensus, through courage. The courage to build, the courage to climb, the courage to witness the moment when everything humanity assumed about beauty and possibility gets rewritten in iron and mathematics. You're standing at Champ de Mars on 6th of May, 1889. The sun is setting. The tower's silhouette cuts across the Paris sky like a declaration. Around you, 18,000 people descend the stairs, exhausted, exhilarated, transformed. They came doubting. They leave believing. That's the revolution, not what they saw at the summit, what they became by climbing. The Eiffel Tower stands today because 2 million people in 1889 chose to witness rather than reject, chose to climb rather than condemn, chose to believe that beauty could mean something new. And in choosing, they built something taller than iron. They built permission. Permission for the 20th century to reach higher, build bolder, dream bigger. Every skyscraper, every bridge, every structure that defies gravity and tradition traces its lineage to this moment, to Eiffel's calculations, to Paris's choice, to the 24 hours when doubt shattered and ambition won. Which moment of these 24 hours would you have most wanted to witness? The first climber reaching the summit? The artist secretly ascending? The moment Eiffel unfurled the flag? Or the sunset on opening day when 18,000 witnesses transformed into believers? Share in the comments. Thank you for witnessing history with us. You were there. You witnessed the 24 hours that changed civilization.